Okay, picture this. Imagine the royal chamber of Pharaoh. It's not just some room with a bed. Think of it as a focal point, a spiritual antenna, totally elevated above the sleeping world. Down below, in the dark streets of Egypt, people are dreaming. But it's all fragmented shadows, right? Just a chaotic jumble of their memories and anxieties. But up here, on the throne, something totally different is happening. A vision is coming down. And it's not some confusing mist, no. It's a structured, crystalline beam of pure information, layered with meaning. It's a direct data stream from a higher reality. So in this explainer, we are going to decode the mystical mechanics of prophecy by digging into one of the most famous dreams in all of history.
All right, let's jump right in with the master key to this whole mystery. It's a line from the Holy Zohar, and it says, "As a person is, so they show him in his dream." Now, this isn't just some nice poetic thought. It's a precise spiritual equation. It's telling us that the signal we receive from the cosmos isn't random at all. It is perfectly, and I mean perfectly, calibrated to the receiver. The quality of your vision is a direct reflection of your soul's level. This one idea, it's going to guide our entire journey today.
So here's our roadmap for where we're headed. We're going to start with the vision that kicked this whole thing off, a dream literally fit for a king. Then we'll unpack the two fundamental tiers of dreaming that the Zohar lays out for us. From there, we're going to get a little technical, pop the hood and map the cosmic architecture of what we're calling the soul stream. We'll make this super concrete with some modern analogies, like admin access versus user mode, and even a gamer's guide to perception. And finally, we'll bring it all back home, figuring out how we can learn to interpret our own signals from above.
Okay, so we begin in Parashat Miketz. You've got Pharaoh, the ruler of the ancient world's only superpower. And get this, the Zohar itself calls him a chayava, a wicked king. So this guy goes to sleep, and he receives a vision of just breathtaking clarity. It's not about his personal life or what he's worried about. Nope, it is a system-wide, perfectly structured, symbolic prophecy about the economic fate of his entire nation for the next 14 years.
And this right here is the central question. Why him? Why a dream like this? I mean, most of us, when we dream, it's a total mess, right? A jumble of disconnected images. It's murky, it's illogical, what the Zohar calls milin kedivin, a mixture of truth and just nonsense. But Pharaoh gets this perfectly ordered, binary dream. 7 fat cows, then 7 lean cows. 7 healthy sheaves of grain, then 7 scorched ones. It's clean, it's symbolic, and it's incredibly urgent. So what makes this guy so special?
Well, the Zohar gives a direct and honestly a pretty startling answer. Shani lemalkim. It's different for kings. It's just a different reality. The quality of information, the clarity of the vision you receive from higher realms is determined by your station, by your spiritual rank. The Aramaic phrase is kafun dargia, which means according to his level. A king, simply because he's a king, occupies a different node in the network of reality. And because of that, he gets a totally different class of information.
Now, when you look at this slide, the difference in data quality is just staggering. On the left, you've got the king's vision. It's structured, it's about the whole system, it's an unfiltered signal. Why? Well, because the king isn't just some guy. His consciousness is literally the vessel for the entire collective. The information he gets isn't for him, it's for the whole nation. So the data stream has to be pure and actionable. And then on the right, you've got the common dream. Personal, fragmented, and corrupted with all kinds of static. It's like a low-bandwidth personal data packet, not a system-wide broadcast.
So to really understand how this works, we need to look under the hood at the cosmic operating system. We have to explore the architecture of this soul stream. And in Kabbalah, that architecture is the Sephirot, these 10 divine emanations that form the pipeline through which all consciousness, all prophecy, and all dreams flow, from the infinite source way up there, all the way down into our finite minds.
Let's start at the bottom, right at the point of reception. This is the Sephirot of Malkhut, which literally means kingship. Malkhut is the final station. It's the point where the spiritual becomes physical. You can think of it like the screen upon which the divine movie is projected. So, a physical king on earth, a guy like Pharaoh, is the living, breathing embodiment of this cosmic principle. He's like the CEO of planet Earth, the terminal that receives the final manifested information. So, if Malkhut is the screen, then what's the projector? Well, that would be the Sephirot of Yesod, or foundation. Yesod is the great connector. It's the channel, the conduit that funnels all the energies and information from the Sephirot above it and transmits them down into Malkhut.
And who is the human archetype of Yesod? The tzaddik, the righteous one. And in our story, guess who that is? Joseph. He's the master of the channel that delivers the dream to Pharaoh.
Okay, so let's see how this all stacks up. This slide gives a brilliant picture of the top-down flow. At the very top, you've got the source code, pure, unformed will generated in the intellectual Sephirot. Then in the middle, you have transmission, where Sephirot like Sephirot and Yesod act like a kind of divine middleware, formatting that will into a dream. And finally reception, where Malkhut or kingship gets the data. The great Kabbalist Rabbi Moshe Cordovoro points out that a waking vision, a mareh b'hakitz, comes from a higher level. But a dream vision, a mareh b'chalom, which is exactly what Pharaoh had, comes specifically through this channel of Yesod.
And what's with the number 7? 7 good years, 7 bad years? This isn't just some random number. The number 7 corresponds to the 7 lower Sephirot, from Yesod all the way down to Malkhut. These are the building blocks of reality, the divine attributes or emotions that literally construct our world. So Pharaoh's dream wasn't just predicting the weather, it was a system-level diagnostic report on the state of these 7 fundamental forces for the next 14 years.
So if this information is flowing down for everyone, why does everyone see it so differently? This brings us to a really profound teaching from the Oryakar. Imagine a single, pure white light. That's divine truth. Now imagine a room full of people, and each person is holding a lantern with different colored glass. One's got a red lantern, one's green, one's blue, and one's is all cracked and cloudy. Each person is going to describe that one single light differently, right? The one with the red lantern says the light is red, the one with the green says no, it's green. Our soul, our spiritual level, that is our lantern, our Asha sheet. It's smudged and colored by our personal junk, and it determines the clarity of the light we perceive. A king's lantern is like clear crystal. A common person's, well, might be a little cloudy.
All right, let's ground these super mystical ideas in a modern analogy that I think makes this all incredibly intuitive. Just think of the universe as a vast, divinely coded information system, like a cosmic supercomputer.
Now, in this system, not everyone has the same permissions. The king, embodying Malkhut, is the system administrator. He's got root access. He can pull up system-wide diagnostic logs. That's Pharaoh's dream. He can see the raw data before it gets filtered by any cosmic firewall. The tzaddik, Joseph, he's a power user. He's got elevated permissions to access and interpret these specific data streams. And most of us, we're the end users. We're on a limited guest account. The data we get is heavily filtered, compressed for low bandwidth, and often arrives as a corrupted data packet. That's our confusing, jumbled dream. Your role in the system literally determines your level of access.
Let's try one more analogy, this time from the world of gaming. Imagine that all of reality is a massive, multiplayer online role-playing game, an MMORPG, designed by a divine game master.
So in this game, your spiritual level is basically your character's rank. A king like Pharaoh is the level 99 admin. He automatically gets these epic system-wide cutscenes that reveal the main plot of the game. A tzaddik like Joseph is a level 70 guild leader. He gets clear lore dumps so he can guide his faction. And the level 10 common person, well, they get garbled NPC dialogue for some random daily task. The crucial point is this. Our spiritual work, our prayer, our learning, our acts of kindness, that's how we level up our character, unlocking clearer information and more meaningful quests from the divine.
So we've explored the cosmic architecture, we've used some modern metaphors, but what does this all mean for us, the end users? We're the ones getting these fragmented, corrupted signals. Is there anything we can actually do about it? The answer is a huge, resounding yes, and it reveals where our true power really lies.
This quote from the Zohar is one of the most radical and empowering teachings in all of Jewish mysticism. Get this. All dreams follow the interpretation of the mouth. Just stop and think about what that means. The dream as it comes down is pure potential. It's fluid, it's not set in stone. The final reality of that dream is not sealed until it is interpreted, until it is spoken into existence right here in our physical world.
And this slide right here illustrates the secret mechanism behind it all. In Hebrew mysticism, numbers are everything. The Hebrew word for mouth is peh, which has a numerical value of 85. The divine name that's associated with judgment and structuring the physical world is Elohim, which also has a numerical value of 85. The mystics teach that this is no accident. When you use your mouth, your peh, to interpret a dream, you are invoking the power of Elohim to bring judgment, to make a final ruling, and to turn the fluid potential of the dream into a fixed reality. You are literally co-creating the outcome. It's incredible.
This was Joseph's true genius, his superpower.
When he says, interpretations belong to God, Elohim Pitronim, he's referencing this very secret. The power to interpret belongs to this force of Elohim. He understood that he wasn't just passively reading a message. He was the Yesod, the channel, whose whole job was to take the raw, system-level data received by Malkhut, by Pharaoh, and give it its final, positive, actionable form. He was shaping reality through wise interpretation.
So for us, the work is pretty clear. Our sages teach that a regular dream is 1/60th of prophecy. I mean, look at this chart. That means that even in our most chaotic, bizarre dreams, there is a tiny kernel of truth, a 1.7% signal from above. The rest, it's just noise. Our psychology, what we ate for dinner, the anxieties of the day. Our spiritual task is to become masterful listeners, to tune out that 98.3% of static and lock on to that tiny sliver of true signal, and then to interpret it wisely.
And this brings us to our final thought. We've spent all this time analyzing the mechanics of nighttime dreams, but what if our entire waking life is a kind of dream being dreamed by the divine? What if every single event, every person we meet, every challenge is a symbolic message? If that's true, then the ultimate question isn't just about your dreams at night. It's about your life, today. What is your interpretation? How are you using your consciousness to shape that divine dream into a beautiful reality?
Thank you for joining us for this complete journey through the Pardes. We hope these ancient truths help you and your family improve your own dimensions this week. If you enjoyed this full chapter deep dive, please like, subscribe, and share which part of the journey touched your soul in the comments. We'll see you in the next chapter.